Trudeau comes on TV, do a little theme song. Here comes Trudeau. What gender is he now?
But you see, you got the song wrong. Because the music should be some bhangra pop.
Trudeau is coming to town.
Until we did not do a response to Pulwama, until we did not do a Uri or a Balakot, do you think we achieved anything as far as Pakistan is concerned? Did we achieve anything?
Is they're merging Khalistani and Indian foreign interference into one. So all the Khalistani action, even though they're saying, kill India politics, kill Modi, kill India, we will balkanize India, death, them all that. That's being counted as Indian foreign interference.
Vikas Yadav is guilty, okay, punish him in India, keep him in India. He's not going to be sent back to America or Canada, nowhere. If you want Vikas Yadav, send Headley and all those people back responsible for a lot of things that have been done.
The average conservative voter doesn't like lunatics wielding swords. Khalistanis in the bed. They say, get this out of my country, is what the base goes. The liberal base goes, oh, that's cute. This is social justice minority. They must be fighting climate change. The number one goal of the Khalistanis is to mix Sikhism and Khalistanis and
confuse everybody.
And confuse everyone. Like that's their number one thing. And it works very well on politicians because they're all mentally deficient. I will be turning Canada into the 51st state of China. I will get rid of safe supply and institute mandatory fentanyl. Everyone in Canada will be on fentanyl.
Indians need to come back to India now because there are just too many of them and they are suffering over there.
It was the foreign interference tour, but part of it is now Gora's Gone Wild.
So I see before me not just trouble but double trouble. Should I ask even what is the craziest thing, Daniel, that you've done since you got to India? Is it repeatable?
It's gonna get better or worse depending on what government you're a part of.
Oh, you have no idea what we are doing tomorrow.
Generally, I think running for Prime Minister of Canada in India to Indians is crazy, but also it's like not illegal because the Liberal Party leadership is open to non-Canadian citizens. Yeah. So I just think this is good politics.
But right? you know that you could be confused for Justin Trudeau. You have the nose.
I could do, but that's kind of the point, is if I can, bait and switch, right? Like, oh, you got Trudeau and this and that. So I'm sort of running on a platform because a lot of it's boring in Canada. Like the Liberal leadership race between Chrysler Freeland and Mark Carney is just like more of the same Trudeau, depending on what your face is. And they're just going to double down on the Trudeau policies. But I'm actually going to then double down on the Trudeau policies and then take them all to their logical end conclusion and implement that. Which is why, I will be turning Canada into the 51st state of China. I will, we have some.
How does Trump feel about this?
So Trump, because Trump's complaining about things like, the drugs and the fentanyl, because the Trudeau policies they feel aren't working because we have safe supply, which you don't understand India. We just give people opium for free if they want it. And then it's we don't even sell drugs in Canada. We just give drugs away for free. Yes, if we were making billions off an illegal drug trade, you go, okay, maybe. Okay. But my thing is I will get rid of safe supply and institute mandatory fentanyl. Everyone in Canada will be on fentanyl under my Liberal government.
Here's my question to you. As you have been traveling with Daniel across India, do you feel, or at least across some cities of India, do people get that he's joking?
Yeah.
Or do people actually think,
so there are two kinds of
WTF?
No. So there are two kinds of reaction. If a brown guy would have done what Daniel is doing, the reaction would have been WTF and one thappad. So that's the normal
Punjabi way of settling things.
You come here, what are you doing on the road? But the thing is, because he's white, right? They just think he's crazy. So the either reaction is, what is the Gora doing?
It was the foreign interference tour, but part of it is now Gora's Gone Wild.
Yeah,
so what is the wildest thing he's done that he's not telling us?
So till now,
dude, I'm more Indian than all of you. I eat spicier food. I disrespect all the traffic laws. I honk more. You'll drive him crazy because I figured out the honking right away.
Oh yeah, you have to explain this to him.
Okay. So context. What is this honking context?
Okay. So in Canada, in the West, when someone honks the horn, we all turn because that's like a thing. It's like,
because people don't honk.
People don't honk. So honking is like impending trouble, you're about to hit me, or it's a thing. So like everyone's attention will go to a honk, right? And in Canada, the only crime we actually keep them in jail for, like murder, like who cares? Like they just keep murdering people.
Like honking is worse than murder.
Yes, or second degree honking, because that was the Freedom Convoy. Like the only thing Trudeau ever actually cracked down on, the only crime was second degree honking, and he held like Mehra in jail for 50 days. So I thought we were doing the foreign interference tour, and then like just one day I thought it was like kind of funny, like, oh wait, like if I'm going to uphold the rule of law, it'd be pretty funny for Canadians if I like go and try and enforce the law, because like Indians, it's just honking all the time, right? So for like Canadians, we go like, I just feel like, let's go just anywhere on the street. They're just gonna honk. Like we don't need to find a place. It's just gonna be, and then I'll like run around and like be Justin Trudeau and Yara Sachs, who's the minister. She's actually minister of giving fentanyl to kids. That's her job, is to give everyone opium, sort of mental health and addictions, but free opium. And she was like, you know, during the Freedom Convoy, she was like, honk, honk. That's an acronym for Heil Hitler. And I was like,
this actually happened?
Yes, this is Yara Sachs.
No. This you made up.
No, Canada's not a serious country.
A Canadian minister said honking is akin to like Heil Hitler?
Because honk, honk. Because we would, during the Freedom Convoy, people would hashtag like honk, honk to honk the government. Because the thing was, people honked at the government to like end the mandates.
So now you have brought this here and you've been honking on the roads of India with freedom.
Yeah, but not just honking on the roads. I'm more Indian. I will now, when walking, I'll also just like, I'll like make loud noise. I'll be like, honk. You see, I figured it. Like there's incessant honking everywhere. Like I've been to the Middle East, and the Middle East, like there's incessant honking, but the honking is F you, F you, F you, F you, F you. And I've seen people like honk like that guy, like and just But in India, it's echolocation. Right? Hello, he's there, I'm there. Hello, there, he's there, I'm here. Like people,
as they say, we're a colorful country. And an expressive country.
So now, I will just go. I will, as walking with the people, I just honk just on the street. So that's what I say. I'm more Indian than all of you.
He has really embraced the chaos. I have to say. So I'll give you the anecdote. This was his second day. So I took him out for a nice dinner in Karjat to a friend. So we are coming back, and my wife taps me on the shoulder. He's like, he's sleeping. And this was like, he did not have jet lag sleeping. He has embraced the chaos sleeping. And you know how we sleep in cars. Only Indians can manage to sleep in a car in India. Or in a local train in Mumbai.
Like this, rocking away.
And he's sleeping. And I was so scared. I was like, he has literally embraced the chaos. So his capacity to actually handle the chaos of India. See, the Goras we are used to seeing is sitting in the car. I don't see him doing that. He's fine. He's just.
So he's a good Desi Gora.
Oh no. I think he's if the Canadian state was to ever throw him out and deport him for crimes, thought crimes, then I think he has a natural home in India. He's literally built for this country.
Oh, I'm far more likely to get, as someone whose 3 of my 4 grandparents were born in Toronto, I'm far more likely to get deported than any terrorist who got to the country 15 minutes ago.
Who got to the country 15 minutes ago is our cue to get to the serious stuff. Trudeau's gone.
Almost.
What do you mean almost?
He's going to resign when the leadership race is.
Is there still a question?
I guess when March is done, he'll be gone in a month.
We'll trust when he's gone.
I mean, I don't want to celebrate too early, but he should be gone.
So let's assume, for the purpose of this podcast, that Justin Trudeau is no longer leading Canada. Right?
Well, he never really was, but yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Katie Telford's still Prime Minister.
Okay. What does that change?
So it changes essentially nothing when Mark Carney or Chrystia Freeland get in, because there's not enough time. Because of the Liberal leadership and the way Canada's Parliament is run. All the bills going forward are now dead. And because there must be a general election in October, there's mathematically not enough time to pass any law. So this is a pure spiteful vanity project from the Liberals to just maintain power as long as they possibly can. So you're saying as long as the Liberals are in control, nothing changes? Nothing changes. Vis-a-vis, let's say, patronage of Khalistanis? No, because the Khalistanis will still hold the balance of power. I mean, Jagmeet's not gone, so the Liberals have a minority. And in order to keep the government, right, and any confidence vote, they need the NDP or the Bloc. But the NDP are much more consistent because they just want communism and terrorism. The bloc are the French, and you can't ever figure out what the French want because the French don't know what the French want. But they know they want it in French. So to maintain the balance of power, you have Jagmeet and Khalistanis, and it's still the Liberal Party is still infiltrated with every crazy ideology. You could put Mark Carney's face on it, you could put Justin Trudeau's face on it, but
there are elections. Are we saying the Liberals are going to win again?
No, they're going to get blown out. They're going to absolutely.
So eventually, we are looking at a post-Trudeau politics, right? But you have the history of Pierre Poilievre skipping Diwali. You're pointing out at that time that for those who are thinking that the Conservatives are going to come and Canada's patronage of Khalistani groups is going to end, that's La La Land.
So it's not going to end. What will happen, in my opinion, is because the Conservatives also have a very strong base that the baseline assumption is, it's so sad that now you have to say that the Liberals don't like Canada because that's what the politics of the country has become. Like,
what do you mean? Explain that.
So Trudeau ran on like the concept of we're the first post-national state. National, it's not just that. Okay, it goes deeper. What started a lot of like the social discord at a major level is there was a story in Kamloops, BC, so in British Columbia, that we had found a mass grave of dead Indigenous children at one of the residential schools. Now, residential schools are like Canada's great sin, where we had gone to civilize the natives and off those schools. Now, was it a tragedy? Yes. Did bad things happen there? I'm not defending it, but in grand scales of nations, super tragedies, and it's not the worst thing that's ever happened. But we have this thirst as from the Liberal Party to want to be genocidal lunatics. We wanted to find out that our sin was like the Holocaust level thing. Like we wanted to be the bad guys. That's how
like a self-loathing kind of
it's
impulse,
total self-loathing thing. So now it turns out that no bodies were actually found. It was just some anomalies in the ground. And there was another mass grave apparently they found out, but it was just like unmarked graves. It was like, no, it was actually behind a hospital where people had died and been buried in the 18 whatevers when people die of sneezes, and the graves were not made in stone but in wood. So they had but he had lowered the Canadian flag to half mast and it laid there for months. We were just in total mourning as a country, and even as journalists were looking into it and being like, actually, we didn't commit a slaughter of children wholesale and throw their bodies into a ditch. We didn't do that. You would think the country would be like, good. But it was
instead of relief, it was almost sadness, and it was not as bad as
it was sadness, right? And anger, and then free speech laws. This is residential school denialism. We need laws to attack the journalists who are saying this type of stuff. And the flag was, again, for 6 months, the flag was lowered at half mast, and it was shout out to, I can't remember which tribe. I don't want to get it wrong if it was Mohawk or whatever. But one native tribe said, listen, we have Indigenous Veterans Day coming up. We fought and bled for this country. And when, that's our day, we lower the flag in half mast for a day to honor our soldiers and our fallen heroes. So you put that flag back up so we can move it down for half a day and then put it back up because this is all ridiculous. And only when these tribes, and they were attacked by the people who know better than them, the noble white savior types, but it wasn't until they actually forced the flag back up so we could have a Remembrance Day.
See, if you drive across Canada and you see a house with a Canadian flag outside, you can almost for certain, with a 90% plus accuracy, predict that that's not a liberal house.
It's
sad.
Because patriotism, pro-Canada patriotism is more right-wing. The Canadian patriotism on the Canadian left, and it wasn't always this way, but the strong especially is anti-Americanism, right?
Right.
So that's what Trudeau said. And I'll add one more thing on just because it's important to know. After this whole, mass graves thing, this started a wave of churches being attacked. So over 100 churches have been burned in Canada.
By?
Radical Marxists, we think, but we're not really trying to find out who. The government's just, Trudeau and his top advisor, Jerry Butt, said, it's understandable.
So let's talk about the US. Trump has been trolling Trudeau. There's no other word for it. He's been trolling Trudeau.
Yeah, that's his way of negotiating.
But he's also actually made a pretty serious comment that he wants to use economic force
Yeah.
To basically subsume Canada within the American identity. Is Trump's trolling of Trudeau going to help the Liberals? Because you know what happens when an external adversary, at least this happens in India, when there's an external adversary, you close ranks. You bury your domestic politics and you say, oh, we're Indians. Are Canadians going, oh, we're Canadians, Trump,
No.
F off? Or is this playing out differently, making Trudeau look even weaker?
So I don't know what he thinks about it, but as someone who looks at it from an Indian and a Western perspective, I just look at what Canada has become. This has been my observation since I stepped foot in Canada in 2001. Canadian politics has always been beholden to America. Even Canadian society. Like, I would always ask my Canadian friends, how are you different from America?
Yeah.
And they would be like, well, ice hockey. I was like, even they play ice hockey. But they're obsessed. The Canadians are obsessed about. There are a few things you can say here and there.
Like, I'm going to correct you. Hockey is played on ice. We play hockey. The rest of the world plays field hockey.
No, I mean, Indians are going to be sensitive about this.
No, ice hockey.
No, you play field hockey. Hockey is played on ice.
Hockey is what we do. Ice hockey is what the Canadians do.
Yes.
Just
Too bad,
correcting
white
you.
boy.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, okay. Agree to disagree.
All right.
Moving on. Huh.
As we say in the locker, buckets and gloves, boys.
So I have seen a slow erosion of Canadian identity in my 22 years of just going back and forth in that country. And I always say it, Justin Trudeau was the epistemological tipping point of Canada when in 2017 he said we are a post-national state. When you are a post-national state, what does it mean? That
you don't believe in nation-state construct.
You don't believe in a nation-state, then you can't be mad
if Trump wants to make you the 51st.
Then Trump's like, come to Papa, right? Yeah, then Trump is right. Listen, let's not kid. I know my Canadian friends don't like it when I say this, but Canada's foreign policy is what? What does America want us to do? That's always been Canada's policy.
Irrespective of which parties.
Yeah. I mean, listen, 65% of your trade is with America.
I mean, we've always been very pro-American, but like, it's kind of ironic. The most independent we've ever been economically and foreign policy-wise was under our most pro-American Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. The country was so strong. We had the strongest middle class in human history. So listen, when you're strong and prosperous, the stronger you as a nation, and the more leverage and power you have, and if you can use that. So there's always like a way for Canada to be independent. And listen, we're near America, so for Canadian interests, we don't want to undermine America.
So how do you think Canadians have felt about Trump using language like Governor Trudeau, Elon Musk saying, come to me, girl, Trump actually making a serious comment about using economic force, making the point that the Americans are wasting or subsidizing or driving a large part of the Canadian economy?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone's and it's like Canada's now stratified into, I'd say, two different segments on this. It's those who are in regular media spheres, which is the Ottawa bubble, and those in the alternative media sphere. And those, everyone's pro-Canada. I think the people who want to be annexed by Trump, they're a small fringe, hyper online
There's a poll that
community.
said 30% was fine with it.
30%?
With what?
Annexation?
Yeah.
30% of Canadians are fine with being
51st state.
being the 51st
I'm
state
going
of
to find
America.
that screenshot and send it to you.
Okay, these might have been of like 50 of like certain parties. Because I think I've seen different. I don't think Canada's going to be annexed. Like,
I don't think because
if you're looking,
it's a loss for America if Canada is annexed.
Yeah, but the only the thing that might happen, and like the real social discord in Canada is Canadian induced. So it's not what Trump could do, like the enemy from within. So we have one province that is where the Canadian economy is most centered, and it's Alberta. And the Trudeau family, his father and baby Trudeau, hate Alberta. They hate our economy. They hate Albertans. They have a huge disdain for because they're the most American conservative, right? They're the center. Alberta hates the Liberal Party.
Got it.
And okay. But there's always been the sense of Western separation. The West doesn't have, I think, fair political representation in Canada. The political power is concentrated in Ontario and Quebec. The Maritimes get overly subsidized. The rich provinces subsidize the poorer provinces, and Quebec always gets more money than everyone else because they scream in French, and then we never stand up to them. And they take Alberta's money, and then they're really snooty and rude about it. And then they take Alberta's money, and then bash Alberta on it, and Alberta gets kicked. And then there's usually Western separatist fervor coming up. And now you see in Canada, right, all the threats that the premiers are making, Doug Ford, we're bad, like close ranks. And what they're doing is we're leveraging all our central provinces are doing the dangerous thing. We're leveraging Alberta's economy as a threat against the Americans and not ours.
So let me try to understand this. So no popular outrage when Trump said what he did?
No.
No, because a lot of people don't take him seriously, and
they'll laugh it off.
But
this is not the first time this joke has been cracked. Since I have
Except
lived
that Trump's
there,
now going to be president.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the joke.
No, but the 51st state joke has been there since I have lived there. But it was just that a president-elect or a president had not done this. But here's my theory why Canada will never be a part of America. Because no American wants Quebec. Quebec will make sure Canada always remains an independent country because only Canadians are nice enough, and I say this on behalf of all Canadians, only a decent country like Canada and its citizenry will deal with the nonsense that happens in Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec.
They are really decent people.
Define nonsense. Define nonsense.
French. You don't have the French, so it's a la bibliothèque je suis de la pamplemousse. Okay, everyone likes Quebec. Quebec's the only place that has like an actual national identity. And it's sort of like they threaten separation and this and that. And
the leading party is a separatist party.
The leading party is a separatist party. They claim to be more nationalistic now. But like the problem with the French is you can just never please them in any way. There's nothing makes them happy permanently. And we call these things like Canadian rivalries on one-sided. So like the French-English thing, it's like a one-sided where the French are like, oh, you stole our English thing. I have a problem from 1754 that I like. Okay, the French are so obstinate against the English. For example, the French have a very lefty progressive culture, fine. But Canada was founded as like an anti-slave country, right? The founder of my city of Toronto, first mayor, lieutenant governor of Canada, John Graves Simcoe, abolitionist. Canada's founded, especially Ontario, first legislative attempt at the abolition of slavery, John Graves Simcoe, great man. Now, because Canada, we can't fully say we started as like an anti-slave country because Lower Canada, so that was Quebec at the time, didn't want to ban slavery and wanted to remain slavery and claimed it as a part of their culture because Ontario wanted to ban it. They had like 7 slaves. There was like 7 of them. And it wasn't, but like because the English said, okay, let's ban slavery, they're like, no, screw you, more slavery. It's like, you don't even have slaves. But you're like they don't have slaves and they're stopping for slavery because we told them they can't have slaves.
So I'll give you an economic example. Every product in Canada needs to, by law, have 2 languages printed on it, right? Now, we as Indians are very much used to it.
We have 3 language formula.
We have 3 language formula. But Canada now, imagine being a neighbor of America, having free trade with America. It's not like Canadians don't buy anything from America, right? But everything has a cost.
Yeah.
So just because, let's say you have a batch of Twinkies, right? You have a batch of Twinkies being made for America, but no, Canada has a different size. And Canada has 2 languages. So the costs of manufacturing and then the requirement go. So nobody likes it.
So let's come to the Central Indian question. If the Liberals are going to lose the next election.
It's very
right? Trudeau's gone.
Yeah.
What does that do to characters like Gurpatwant? Pannu, not US. What does it do to who operate both out of Canada and the United States? What does it do to the Khalistani groups? What does it do to the sort of the mainstreaming of Khalistani separatists and terrorists?
So I think, listen, it can't get worse and it should get better for a few reasons. Are there Khalistanis in the Conservative Party? Yes. Okay, they're in every political party. They did infiltration. And a lot of it, is just Canadians have their head in the sand. They don't understand the issue. Some guy comes in I'm from this, they would claim to be the leaders. It's the same thing. We are the leaders of the Sikh community. And you go, oh, okay.
So most Canadians understand Sikh and Khalistani to be interchangeable entities, though nothing could be further from the truth.
Most Canadians don't understand the first thing about the issue. Now, more people do. And the number one goal of the Khalistanis is to mix Sikhism and Khalistanis and
confuse everybody.
And confuse everyone. Like that's their number one thing. And it works very well on politicians because they're all mentally deficient for the most part. Or 90% of the politicians in Canada would be
so there are Khalistanis in the Conservative Party.
Okay, but the problem with the current government, why things are so bad right now, is the Khalistanis actually hold a balance of power in this current government iteration, right? Because you have the minority government, you have Khalistanis in the cabinet of the Liberals, so you have sympathy there, and then you have Jagmeet, and leaders can whip a party. So by smacking India and promoting Khalistan, you can get Jagmeet's support, which then keeps your government in power. And so right now, if they go against the Khalistanis, they could break the government.
Right.
The Conservatives will get in. It will be a supermajority. The second place party currently is projected to be the French Separatist Party in Quebec. So that's how badly the Liberals are going to get wiped out. Conservative everywhere in the country except Quebec, which will be French, the French party. And that will be the official opposition. So we're heading to like a complete annihilation of the left-wing parties for the last 10 years.
And what does that change for Indian interests?
So I think it's good because the conservative base, the average conservative voter, doesn't like lunatics wielding swords. Khalistan's in the bed. They say, get this out of my country, is what the base goes. The liberal base goes, oh, that's cute. This is social justice minority. They must be fighting climate change or whatever the Canadian liberal mind thinks of these days. What does the CBC tell me? So the conservative base doesn't want these lunatics. So if the Khalistanis and Conservative Party start going around, and there's 80% of the new immigrants to Canada think there's too many immigrants in Canada.
Yeah.
So there's a sentiment growing of none of this, we don't want any of this. So inside the conservative base, there's an anti-this. Now there's always people inside the Conservative Party who the establishment who play to the thing because they're making money off of it, and they'll always enable, and it will be a process to get them out. But the Conservatives will want to trade more. Trudeau wants, we have tons of resource natural gas, and the Japanese and the Europeans wanted to buy our natural gas, especially if hey, we need to get off Russian reliance if we're going to do this whole thing to leverage Russia against Ukraine. And Trudeau was like, no, there's no business case for LNG pipelines and natural gas. And the Japanese were like, no, we'll give you $1 billion, $10 billion, $20 billion. No, there's no business case. $80 billion. No, we can't do that because there's no business in exchanging resources for money. That's not how businesses work.
I have a slightly different view.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
From the Indian point of view. I think anything from a Trudeau deviation will be better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they'll be good.
Because
still you have the deputy leader of the Conservative Party, one of the two right now as the leader of opposition, who is a known Khalistani, Tim Uppal. And if Tim is not a Khalistani, well, Tim, you're supposed to clarify that. It's not my problem.
I mean, yeah, he's been photographed and done work with Pannu.
Gurpatwant Singh Pannu.
Yeah. Tim Uppal has been photographed with Gurpatwant Pannu. You had said this to me.
So I don't buy a single thing that Tim Uppal says, and if the excuse,
and how much influence does he command within the Conservative Party?
More than him, there are others, right? So
there are significant Khalistanis in the Conservative Party of Canada.
And see, the biggest mistake a lot of Indian analysts do is that they assume only a Sikh can be a Khalistani. Hindu can be a Khalistani too. I mean, you're a Punjabi, I'm a Punjabi. We know how things are in this community. And I know it for a fact that I think more damage from the Conservative Party point of view, as far as this India-Canada relation is concerned, was actually done by a Hindu Punjabi, not by, just Raj Hallan or Pangil or Tim Uppal. It was done by Arpan Khanna.
So I want to say at this point, it's very important because Daniel made this point about confusing Sikh identity with Khalistani identity. And the rest of, other Canadians not understanding the difference. It is very important to cite a Pew survey, not that we need it, but just because data speaks, that 95% of Punjabis, of Sikhs in Punjab, have no interest in Khalistan. Right? I would imagine the majority of Sikhs in Canada have no interest in outside of these Khalistani groups.
Well, it depends. I would say in second and third generation Sikh kids, I think Khalistan and the sentiment will be in at least 20 to 30% of
Okay, so that's very different from India, where there is no popular support in India for Khalistan. Sikhs are a fiercely proud, fiercely patriotic community. India has had its 80s.
Yeah.
There are elements we need to worry about, the Amritpal Singh and so on, and those are ongoing conversations. But the overwhelming number of Indian Sikhs think Khalistan, oh, please take it away. Set it up in Canada. Canada, you can have Khalistan.
BC, Western Khalistan.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just explain. So you're right. The majority of Sikhs are not like this. And to understand the Khalistan issue in the West, you should understand it's not the same Khalistan you grew up with from the 80s and 90s in Punjab and the Indian version of Khalistan and Vindawali and all of that.
Yeah.
That's not what Khalistan now is in the West. To push Khalistan, right, they got in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood and the left and learned the same tactics where they basically have created a version of Khalistan that fits a Western narrative.
Which is Sikh leaders is the phrase they use.
But it's like oppressor oppressed, right? So in the West, everything is critical race theory, we call it. Everything is black versus white, Jim Crow America, right? So now Sikhs are black, Hindus are white, there's an oppressor and oppressed. And the narrative goes a lot more like that to sort of like the victimology of Western civilization. So it's very similar to the Palestine cause, like the rhetoric of the Palestinians and the Khalistanis. Again, Muslim Brotherhood.
I mean, that's a very debatable comment.
But
right?
they're very different things, but how it manifests in the West.
Because the Palestinians don't have a state, and these are people who have a state.
Well, it's not about anything. It's not about reality. Okay, none of this is about reality. Okay, this is about like Carleton University, McGill, and how things are taught and this is like, again.
No, I understand that the narrative is of victim and oppressor.
Right, yeah, so.
And so the Khalistanis in the larger Canadian sort of narrative are presented as victims of a dominant majority in a way.
In a way, yeah. But then this is why it would be more appealing to the youth because you have this victim currency. So by imbibing the Khalistani narrative, which is very similar to other groups that have adopted the favorite groups, the rhetoric of critical race theory, and have gotten that sort of special status.
I don't agree with the Palestine parallel.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Because, you come to the West and see what these people are saying.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, the issues are totally different, right? The issues on the facts are totally different, and I grant you that. But neither of, like, again, once it gets to the West, it goes through this melding system of, like, Western academia, and we force our own Western heuristics and the Western academics onto these different issues. So all the different issues, like, one of the things of like, social justice, and you find it's like black, gay, trans, woman, whatever, like they're all apparently have the same issues in critical race theory, and they're all the same thing. And I'm like, well, no, I don't think black, trans, gay, like I think they're all different, but they all fit a similar sort of academic narrative. So it makes it easier for the academics to cross over. And it's just laziness for a lot of it and some Chinese infiltration and Soviet nonsense from leftover in our institutions where we kind of let the anti-Westernism fester in our institutions as like...
So the way, I hear you, the way most Canadians understand this issue is to understand it in terms of victim and oppressor.
Yeah. No, because that's the essence of Canadian society. Canada is California on steroids. It is.
So they're trying to push the 84 genocide, right? Yeah. And like the whole 84 genocide narrative, because listen, it's not even like Sikhs, right? It's a whole criminal thing. But like, if you can say that you're fighting a genocide, then you're justified to do anything to fight it, to counter that.
So therefore, the lack of shock when Indians say that, look, this man has made open threats against Indian diplomats, has threatened to blow up Indian civilian aircraft. Where is the repugnancy or the sense of anger among Canadian people when Pannu releases videos?
See, this is where the Khalistanis are smart. They only communicate in Punjabi when they say violent things. The most violent rhetoric is never in English.
Yeah.
The most violent rhetoric is in Punjabi. So you have basically lost 98% of North American audience, whether it's America or Canada. They don't understand Punjabi. Until some of us, all of us, including you, me, and many others, we started putting subtitles.
That's right.
And started translating what they're saying. And then some of us, people who actually have a popular base and a listener base in North America for other reasons, we started focusing on them. Now, there were two sides to it. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, was a nobody. Now, maybe some of us are guilty of making him a somebody, because you can't tell me that I will not react to a Khalistan bit, because I have seen so much bloodshed. So I will react to it. Like, nobody can stop you, Barkha.
Yeah.
it's for you and me, it's personal. Whether we like it or not, it's personal.
It is.
So, when somebody from the Indian larger think tanky circle will come and say, Kushal, you're creating Gurpatwant thing. I was like, no, don't tell a Punjabi I'm creating anything. He says, I'm hitting back. Yeah. That's just the Punjabi in me. I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
But there is a point that we have spoken so much about him and we have given him that thing. But what has happened now is, Canada was from the most pro-immigrant country because of the disastrous immigration policies of Justin Trudeau. And believe me, even I believe Indians need to come back to India now because there are just too many of them and they are suffering over there. My reason for them want to send them back is they're being exploited. That immigration anger, see, everything needs a visual key.
Manifestation,
And the Khalistani flag waving lunatics on the road, they're like, see, Khalistanis hate being called Indian, but they are Indian.
Passport
chodo yaar, the identity is Indian.
Yeah.
Everything is Indian about them. They just keep saying we're not Indian. So when the anti-immigration sentiment was looking for someone, guess who is going to be the most obvious target when you're running around yelling like a lunatic?
Indians.
Then in Indians, the most vocal Indians who have made protesting an art form every weekend. So they're like, these people, yellow flag, turban. Now, my biggest fear in this is nobody has done more damage to the innocent Sikh community of Canada than the Khalistani. Because now, how do you... Let's be very clear. For us, all white people are the same. We don't know what Irish white is. For me, like, he's a Jew. I don't care. White. It's like, we joke around. So we can't distinguish.
How are you feeling about the ceasefire? I'm segueing.
We're going to say about this? We'll see. Listen, if this ends the war and there's still hostages in there, it's the forever war. It means 10 years later, there's going to be a super October 7th. And more rape and mass slaughter. And, Hamas is promising, even if all the people who, call me a evil war hawk monger, I don't care about the Palestinian people, the good innocent ones. Well, Hamas is promising that all the good innocent Palestinians who are not pro-Hamas, their day is coming, they're going to be slaughtered and murdered and tortured. And you see the videos. I mean, I guess you don't see the videos. I've seen the videos of Hamas executing the Palestinians who, try and get the aid that they hoard. I mean, the West and Israel supplied Hamas with all the money and finance they need through humanitarian aid, which they then stole and hoarded and used as a wartime economy to build themselves up. So if the core issue of Hamas leadership isn't done, then it'll be immense suffering for the people of Gaza and Israel, and then we'll all have to be back here in 10, 15 years
I actually agree
for stage 2 of the forever war.
But what was the alternative?
Win the war.
Honestly,
win the war.
How do you solve this? Tell me, what have we achieved in the Pakistan issue? You've covered this so much over your years. What is until we did not do a response to Pulwama, until we did not do a Uri or a Balakot, do you think we achieved anything as far as Pakistan is concerned? Did we achieve anything? Because no matter what we like, I'm not trying to draw parallels between this, but what is the deterrence at the end of the day?
Well, you see, as Prime Minister Modi said to Putin, this is not the era of war.
It is not the era of war, but at the end of the day, if you're going to do a deal and the power goes back to the people who literally want, their constitution says, I want to obliterate every single Jew. How do you deal? It's like, I can't negotiate with a person who wants to kill me. My instinct will be, this is like telling me to negotiate with a Khalistani. Am I going to negotiate with a Khalistani?
No, I know. Anyway, Israel, Gaza, Palestine, Hamas is a.
I mean, he knows my view.
We need another podcast on that.
If you want to bring me on for the whole Middle East, it connects to Lebanon.
We'll do that separately, but you were just right here and you mentioned it. So I couldn't resist asking.
It was my original.
But to circle back, you said that the biggest disservice done to the Sikh community is these Khalistanis, because for most people they don't understand these differences in the way that Indians may not understand that all people, people with the same skin color are not the same. Now you were saying.
Okay, as someone who's probably the most vocal anti-Khalistani white boy in the country, I live in Toronto. If I see someone in a turban sit next to him, there's no fear, especially in Toronto. Now maybe in certain parts of Brampton or Surrey, where the capital of Khalistan, that might be different. But, when I talk to a Sikh about the issue or this thing comes up, far more likely to agree with me than agree with Pannu. Like turban wearing, this and that, they're crazy. Then they'll tell me, okay, it's not the way it is. And they'll explain that, no, actually in India, this is that, what you're hearing now is all this. Interestingly enough, anecdote, I was walking down this, 2 months ago, let's say. I was walking down the street, just past a couple, and there was two 60-something-year-old white dudes. And they were talking about, all the problems. And then they were saying, oh, and these Khalistanis are da-da-da-da. And I just walked by an actual conversation between two white Canadians where they were talking about the shenanigans of Khalistan. I didn't stand there and do the thing because it was, walking past. But that really stuck out to me. That would not have, there was only one white boy complained about Khalistanis 3 years ago. And, right? But now it's sort of mainstreamed. And it was interesting for me because the age group they're in, okay, maybe they're more on social media, because if you turn on Canadian news media, it's Khalistan, the movement for peace and justice to unite Hindus in death. It's
crazy.
Right?
No, but that's my fear. See what he's saying. These were two 60-year-old white people just having a casual conversation. Why?
But they said Khalistanis and not Sikhs.
Yeah, but I don't expect an average white person to have
understand
that nuance. I don't blame them for that. And that's my biggest fear, that the shenanigans of the Khalistanis, Gurpatwant Singh, Pannu, see, who can be more anti-Sikh than Gurpatwant Singh, Pannu?
Let's talk about the Gurpatwant Singh Pannu case for a moment, because we have a fresh development in that. Now, just for our audience, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is a Khalistani terrorist. He makes brazen attacks against India. But there is a case in a US court that basically accuses an Indian of conspiring to try and kill him.
Vikas Yadav,
otherwise known as CC1, now identified by the FBI, not by the Indians, as Vikas Yadav. A high-level Indian committee set up to look into this has recommended action against Vikas Yadav.
Yeah, that is the Indian version of we condemn. Everybody knows what's going to happen. Did the Americans send Headley back? They cut a deal with Headley. I'm from Mumbai. Again, it's personal. I hate Headley with a passion.
Yeah.
You were covering it, right?
Yeah.
Did the Americans send Headley back to us?
And there's reason to believe that he's a triple agent.
Vikas Yadav is guilty. Okay, punish him in India, keep him in India. He's not going to be sent back to America or Canada, nowhere. If you want Vikas Yadav, send Headley and all those people back responsible for a lot of things that have been done. So what's there to discuss? Nothing. It's nothing. It was a person who went off the radar, tried to do whatever. And come on. Are we trying to say people don't snoop on each other now? Are we that naive? The freaking Americans were snooping on the German chancellor for goodness sake.
So here's my question about the Americans in all of this Nijjar Pannu question, right? Yeah. Trudeau, India and Canada nosedive because Justin Trudeau basically accuses the Indians of having been responsible for killing the Khalistani called Nijjar.
Who killed
Gurpatwant Pannu? Just remember the cast of characters here. Gurpatwant Pannu is lawyer for Nijjar. Nijjar pretends to be a plumber, is a Khalistani. Nijjar gets killed. Initially, the responsibility is put on gangs.
Yeah. We know the four names now.
We know the four names.
Karan Brar, Kamalpreet Singh, Amandeep Singh, and Karanpreet Singh.
And some reports that they may have been released, but those were contradicted later.
I think they were transferred from provincial
care. But the names are right.
Yeah. Okay. These were the men initially blamed, and then Trudeau turns around and he blames the Indians. However, that intelligence comes from the Americans. Are the Americans playing a double game here with India?
Listen, I don't know. I don't know. And then there's a difference between Biden's administration and Trump's administration on this.
Correct.
And you could say it came from the Americans, but Trudeau then claims that it was coming from his Sikh advisors. Then Pannu claims it's him. The whole thing has been from the outset. It looked like a fever dream from Pannu's fever dream of that's what we were living in.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the takes I had of day 1 and 2 ended up turning out to be true, which was, if you look at the context of Canada, there was a heavy foreign interference scandal from China. 11 MPs we think are bought off by China that we know of. And Trudeau's hiding this. What are the names, right? So when you have 11 spies in the government, and you're so soft in infiltration because he's very pro-China and he was getting money in his original leadership. He's in Quebec, but he's getting money from Chinese nationals in BC, and we have Chinese police stations in our country. Like the CCP will police dissidents in Canada. It's all very crazy. So to sort of transfer it over, they added in India to the foreign interference of China, Iran are like the two biggest foreign interferers.
So you think he did it to change the headline about China?
Complete distraction.
My take was, this is a case of Pakistani foreign interference being sold as Indian foreign interference to distract from Chinese foreign interference. That ended up being true. And you see the way that the malicious actors inside our intelligence apparatus have classified Indian foreign interference is they're merging Khalistani and Indian foreign interference into one. So all the Khalistani action, even though they're saying, kill India politics, kill Modi, kill India, we will balkanize India, death, that's being counted as Indian foreign interference.
Isn't it fascinating?
So you're getting blamed.
This is bizarre.
See?
Because they're railing against India and it's being called Indian foreign interference.
See Canada. This is why I get it. This is why we have the foreign interference tour, because this entire concept. Why do you think I told him that when we decided that, when him and I were having this conversation I was like, come to India and we're going to have a foreign interference tour. And we just started laughing about it is because I have now gone, and Daniel and I, forget the fact that we work together, we have a podcast together. Forget all of that. But since 2 years or 2+, Dan and I have been working together. We go around, we joke because, it's a different market, right? We're not serious. We are serious when we have to be serious, but it's a bit of but you can't take Canada seriously.
I was telling everyone in India when I was came on in September, everyone's like, what's going on in Canada? I was like, calm down. Just treat Canada like it's a show on TV, like it's a soap opera.
No, but it is, Barkha.
Just when Trudeau comes on TV, do a little theme song. Here comes Trudeau. What gender is he now? Right? Just play that little in your head, and then you'll be less because. None of this makes sense.
No, but you got the song wrong. Because the music should be some Bhangra pop. This accompanying music is not correct. Please redo. Please redo. Please redo. Redo it.
Trudeau is coming to town, and everything is going to be trans.
So here's try and understand. I go around asking serious Canadian journalists.
Yes.
Like someone I look up to, Terry Milevsky.
Yeah.
And I always ask Terry, do you have a working definition of foreign interference? And Terry just looks at me and gives me a smile.
Yeah.
Because Terry knows, we don't have a working. So imagine a Canadian.
Apparently buying off 11 MPs is not. But tweeting in India is, right? So I've already...
Crazy.
Don't worry.
I was half jealous that you and I were not mentioned in that RRRM report. Honestly. I was half jealous that we were not mentioned in that report. I'm living here. At least call me a foreign interference guy. And they're like, no, that Anand Ranganathan, that ANI Smita Prakash, that Shivaru, they're taking random names. I was like, they have left us Punjabi.
It's Pannu. It's a fever dream from Pannu. Pannu's on ayahuasca and just writing, and then Melanie Jolie is just this ANI tweeted that this diplomat just came out of the MEA building. Oh, really? A diplomat came out of the MEA building? One, is this news or whatever? Yeah, it happened, but that's not Barkha Dutt level news.
Yeah.
Barkha doesn't cover that. That's something the intern is you could get an intern. That guy's over there. Just you tweet that, I guess. And then we were foreign interference, fake news. And then there's a video too. You can see he's literally there. It's in the video. He's there. It's
But the point is, Terry Milevsky.
Yeah.
Okay, don't take Canada seriously. What do Indians feel about Kanishka? Right? There are serious historical injustices, like blowing up a plane midair. In which 100 babies are among those who are killed, right? You have people like Sanjay Lazar who have spent years of their life, he lost his entire family on that plane trying to get justice. And you have this completely papered over, and here I hold our own people somewhat responsible. Why are we not fighting about this?
Forget everything other than you and I.
Yeah.
There is nobody I know who has even raised the point of there's no Air India memorial. That one in Kalina is in a high security area. And you can ask to anyone off the record in the government and they'll be like, why is it in a high security area? I want a proper Air India memorial. And they'll be like, and they'll make some rap. And that too, this government gave that Kalina thing.
So can I offer
Yeah, because this is the biggest aviation terrorism incident before 9/11 in the world.
So and the Indian government does nothing.
So I've slammed Canada and the Canadian government on this a while, and it's a tragedy and a failure, and you can flip. My problem with India, and I think where they fail on this, is they're too scared. They're Khalistanis and everything. Of taking it too scared of just saying, oh, if we put a memorial out in public and people come, will people attack it? And this constant level of self-imposed fear, it emboldens terrorists.
I think in our psyche, defilement is a very bad thing.
And if you don't sort of get over this hump as a nation of like, we're standing up to this, like, no, done, and like kind of come out bold, then it's always going to come at you. Because if you're like, fear enables the terrorism. And like you see this, like, you know, they came to harass the families of the Air India bombing at the 39th anniversary on June 23rd. And we knew they were going to do it. And some, Indian Sikh Hindus, Jains had arranged a memorial for that in Toronto. You know, I put it out, and Kushal and I put it out. So a lot of people can, like, you know, half the people there were Jewish and to support, and it was a good thing. But the Khalistanis came in and wanted to like go and stand over and dominate them and do a Khalistan Zindabad right on top of it. Well, the country's a failed state for right now. You can do it.
Canada's a failed state?
Getting there. You can do whatever. No, it's failing. It's broken. It's not destroyed, but it's broken. But you can do whatever you want. So the same Khalistanis that went and attacked the temple, they were the ones who are doing this. You can just go up and tell them no. That's what I did. I just grabbed the phone and said, no, you can't do this. No, you're terrorists. You have to go there. No, this is our thing. No, you can't. And the cops got in. They have a permit. They don't have a permit. Right? If you just sort of stand your ground, say, no, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to stand over the victims.
Yeah, put a line and say, stand behind that line.
And I said, like, this is like, you taking a bunch of Nazi flags and going to a Holocaust memorial and saying, yeah, we're standing up for the real victims of the Holocaust, which was the German people. I said, no, you can't do this. So you have to go over there.
Yeah.
And because one person said, oh, you're not allowed to do this. Because no one's ever stood up to these people, right? And you make them a bigger fear. Like if India doesn't get over this, like, debilitating fear of speaking out in Khalistanis and can't just say like, here we have a memorial in Mumbai or Delhi, it's public, you can go to the victims, lay a wreath, and what if some Khalistan...
I mean, this has to be a public place for convening.
Barkha, there is a deep-rooted problem. It's a mistake of the Ministry of External Affairs. We've never had a singular Canada foreign policy.
Yeah.
Let's be as brutal as possible. Our foreign policy of Canada is our American foreign policy, and Canada is just the sidekick of that, which is why look at the placements as far as the staff in the embassy is concerned. It is always people who should not be there, more often than not are there. I have told you many things off the record, which I don't like to talk about it, but the level of corruption I saw is mind-boggling. And there is a reason, because the Indian state in its quote, wisdom, has never taken Canada seriously as a country that should be individually dealt with.
The last time you and I were talking, Daniel wasn't here, you said the consulate in Chandigarh should be closed.
Absolutely.
B, you said that students should be actively discouraged from going to Canada to study.
Yes.
It is also worth pointing out that the maximum number of students in terms of destinations where they travel abroad from India is to Canada.
Now it's changing.
Now it's changing, but till last year, that is what the numbers were. With Trudeau gone, would you still make both those points?
Yes. Because right now, for Canada's sake, we should not send someone over there for a few days. It's unlivable now. Because
in what way?
Okay, so let me explain. Okay, so there are real schools in Canada. It's U of T, McGill. I went to Queen's. That's a real school. Some silliness.
I also went to a real one. Yeah, you disagree with.
Yeah,
which is
York. He went to the Islamic Republic of York.
Stop it.
So it's the Gaza Strip, as it's always been. Okay, so there are real schools, and if you're going there, that's real. It's a different thing. But most of the schools, and what's been really opened up since we shut down the resource industry under Trudeau, the human trafficking, drug dealing, so real estate, how's the real estate boom? One is like Chinese money laundering through fentanyl to buy properties, to stash money as whatever. And there's empty apartments owned by 12 Chinese billionaires, and it's that chaos, a lot in BC. But here's the system. A lot of the schools now in Canada are fake. We call them diploma mills. So you think you're getting a good deal to study. And most of the kids, we just found like there's like 50,000 kids that never even show up to these schools. It's
that's
in a strip
all countries combined,
that's
50,000.
Okay, so there's these fake schools,
and
right?
There are problems in that number.
Yeah, Northwest Technical Institute of Friendship.
The problem is, let's say if you were in Humber and then you transfer to Ryerson, for example, the old immigration laws are not obliging Ryerson to update the number. So even if you have transferred from Humber to Ryerson, you're counted as someone who is non-compliant. So that number has problems.
Okay, so there's a lot of fake schools where it's essentially, this is how the people who did kill Nijjar got in as students, all the gangsters. So one, this is easily gameable by foreign terrorist organizations and international criminal outfits, because you get $20,000 to get someone into Canada to use as a base to go undermine America. What's Trump complaining about, right? This is what Trump's kind of complaining about. So one, the actual gangsters and criminals can get in easily as students. That's a problem. Two, the good-hearted kids who are just like, oh, I got a good deal. Like it's $10,000 to get to Canada, where it's $25,000 to get to America. And if it's too good to be true, it usually is, right? So you get into these schools, you're now beholden to them. You know, oh, you need to find a place to live. Housing's so expensive. Often it's a landlord in your own community. You're Punjabi, they speak Punjabi. Oh, come in, we got a thing. You end up living in a basement with 15 other people. You know, you're paying. So this is where Canadians are getting mad, right? Because you're renting in a basement. That's your prerogative. I'm not like an anti-landlord type of crazy communist. But you want to rent to a family of four? What can a family of four pay you? $2,500 a month, let's say. What can 13 foreign exchange students pay? They can all pay $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 a month. Do the math. If 10 of them are going to live in the basement.
So you would ask Indian students not to come to Canada because?
They're being human trafficked. They're being exploited. They're being exploited and human trafficked, right? They end up living in the basement.
Girls are being sexually trafficked.
You've said this before. You want to substantiate this?
The girls go there. They don't have enough money to pay the rent off, to pay the tuitions off. They're staying... Barkha,
because you're making dollars, you're also spending dollars, and you're in these situations.
They are in these basements. Barkha, there were some houses that were found where they were not even having a room. It was a cot for 12 hours. The rest of the time, that cot is used by someone else because the costs are so high. So I don't want to pay 1,200 as he said. I only want to pay 500 Canadian because I want to save money. Okay, you get a 12-hour place to crash. You have one corner where you put your bag in. We have that patio over there where you can cook or whatever and put your plate and eat, or most of the times they're eating outside. And then Randeep Sarai had passed this motion, M44, in 2022, a Liberal MP. A Liberal MP, and it was voted in 324-0. Everybody voted for it. That basically created a program that makes sure that international students can work 40 hours a week. No, you've studied there, I've studied there. We're not supposed to work 40 hours a week. We're there to educate ourselves, get new skills, and then find a job wherever. That's not what was happening. This was diploma mills. It's like, let's say this room and this is a college now. It's stupid.
This would be one of the better colleges.
Yeah.
So it
was a complete scam. And to say that the Canadian government higher-ups did not know about it,
they're making money.
They are making money.
Liberal money. The Liberal Party is being funded by all of this.
Eventually, just like the Air India bombing, the worst modern-day human trafficking scam in the Western Hemisphere, entire Western Anglo-Saxon world, was what happened in Canada up till now. Now it's shut. It's very interesting. Last year,
once the upper middle class starts to feel it, then
now it's shut.
Now things start to have to change.
Our kids are literally safe now because last year when I came back to India, I would go around Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, and I would see a lot of go to Canada posters on immigration. Those immigration offices are still there. All go to Canada gone, IELTS tests are gone. Canada is done. Indians don't want to go to Canada anymore. And the other thing is that How can you allow anything? Are you trying to say the Brampton, mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown? Okay, I'm not giving Patrick Brown a free run. He's blocked me. I'm no fan of the guy. Okay, but the point is, the buck doesn't end with Patrick Brown or some other municipal councillors of Brampton. It goes with the Premier Doug Ford. It goes right up to the Prime Minister's office, because behind every brown person being sexually trafficked or human trafficked, there is some loose Khalistani connection over there, because who controls logistics in a big way? Who controls music in a big way as far as Indian Punjabi hip hop is concerned? We know what is happening, but the thing was, when brown people used to talk about it, nobody would pay attention until, like he said, it started affecting the average. See, when the average Canadian...
No. The upper middle class. The average Canadian could go F themselves as far as the Liberal Party is concerned. The average Canadian burn their churches. Burn their churches, they're the root.
Yeah.
When the upper middle class Canadian gets affected, now the Liberal Party...
So now it will all be fixed. So now what we have is, I think there has to be... This is again, my appeal to the government of India would be, find a way of getting some of those children back. My biggest fear is, Barkha, some of these people who abused the student visa program and ended up being gangsters over there. And this is how Nijjar got murdered also. Nijjar, it was, everybody knows it is inter-gang warfare, whether it's Arsh Dalla and many others. Look at how they went to Canada.
I will make Director of National Intelligence when I'm Prime Minister of Canada.
Okay, let's end by asking both of you, one thing that you learnt about Canada that you think most Indians don't know, and one thing you've learnt about India that you think most Canadians don't know.
Okay, I'm going here, like,
you can say the butter chicken is different.
Butter chicken in Canada, in America, is a stupid dish. It should be abolished. It's dumb. But I've always hated it's like silly white people food. What is this?
He's been coaching butter chicken in India.
And then I had the Delhi butter chicken. I'm like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. Like,
yes.
That's one. Okay, so we need to ban.
Do the Canadians also have that dumb tandoori chicken masala which tastes nothing like?
Indian restaurant food is mid at best. It's but Indian home cooking is great. So we should ban Indian restaurants and force everyone to like go to someone's mom's house or like whatever. I will say though, and I kind of write about this. And I think a lot of Indians would resonate with this. The West fundamentally doesn't understand Indian society or politics. We know what India is in a way, but there's a fundamental misunderstanding. But on this converse angle, I think Indians also have a misunderstanding of like where Canada or the West really thinks about stuff. Like they know what the West is, not stupid. I know what Santa Claus is, I've seen the movies, but there is also a fundamental misunderstanding. So we're on the thing where we're just both talking past each other.
Correct.
And I think that's causing a lot of issues. So and I think that's what I've really picked up with talking with the people in the street.
I actually agree with that. I don't think the West gets us. I don't think we fully get them. Very few of us have actually lived both lives. Right? You've lived both lives.
Which is why I started speaking up, because I was I'm literally one of the rare species who lives half and half. So I actually get two cultures now.
So what's the biggest gap?
Justin Trudeau does not represent Canada. Canadians are the nicest people you'll meet. And I say this as someone who has family in America and has lived in America both. See, I'm not saying Americans are bad before somebody misunderstands. But America is a more aggressive society. It's in your face. It's like the biggest example I always say, drive from Windsor to Detroit and go through American immigration, drive through Detroit back to Windsor and go through Canadian immigration. The fundamental decency of an average Canadian is just, you have to feel it, experience it to understand how nice they are.
If you really want a culture shock as an Indian, right, with the honking and the cars and this and that, go to the east coast of Canada, the Maritimes. This is the most Canadians, like known for politeness and kindness, like the kindest people. And I've done this thing. They will, if in the middle of the road, you don't need to stop. Like if you're on one side of the road and you look to the other side of the road, every car stops and people just start waving you. Come on, go. And like, it will blow your mind. Like the India, everyone's weaving and this and that and that. The exact opposite of Indian is if you go to the Maritimes, you have to experience.
I mean, there are
it.
many more of us than there are you, so there's also.
Yes, but
yes.
if you, but just go.
I hear
fundamental
you.
decency in
people.
Canada is something.
So before we say bye, where's the foreign interference tour headed next?
When's this podcast premiering? Is it premiering today?
I think we might actually premiere it today.
You're about to stream for tomorrow.
Should we wait for something grand about to happen?
I think I can't spoil the surprise because
no, you have to give us a hint. Give us a clue.
So Kushal and I are invited to a high society event tomorrow.
Oh my God!
And the Prime Minister of Canada will be attending.
Which is you?
Yes.
Okay, we're looking out.
What happens is him and I we spend. So this is where we plan our shenanigans. It is like
on the car ride over to various interviews.
Literally. So the next shenanigan was planned on a car ride to the Mojo studio.
It was great. We were on the way to A.
Okay, I have to hear this off camera so I can decide when to release this podcast. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was fun. Thank you.